Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and talk about anything about publication and writing books. Here, because I can never remember the script. Okay, my name is Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and for everybody listening live. And a big thank you to all of our listeners on iTunes or any of the other platforms where we make our audio available. If you're on YouTube, if you like what we do, please remember to like and subscribe below. You can also go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, which will ensure you never miss a single episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast.
Nice, Rhonda.
Right,
as long as the newsletter
awesome.
it, right?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We like to start each episode with a segment called What's Up? It's a time to check in with one another and see where we are in our writing and personal lives. So, Snow White, what's up?
Right before we went live, I told Rhonda, I said, I'm wearing your lipstick for you because she loves it when I wear red lipstick. She always calls me Snow White, which I got to admit, it's kind of sweet. So I kind of like it, you know. So my what's up is there's a lot of chaos going on behind me. I didn't realize before we went live. I probably should have cleaned up this family room, but I am like last week, I am at my aunt's house and we are getting a ton done painting rooms and just doing lots of construction stuff. So my husband is off work in Michigan. We are on a stay home order, but we have 2 homes. So we kind of go back and forth between the 2 homes, but we stay away from everybody else. We go for walks in the neighborhood. That's kind of nice. But like pretty much like everyone else, we are quarantined. But
Jennifer, you want to know what's the funniest thing about you being like Snow White? Is like if birds started following you around in the wilderness, you would like freak out and run. It would be hilarious. Birds. Like if forest creatures tried to approach you because you're Snow White, like it would be hilarious. Like filming you being like, get away.
Forest creatures are fine. Ones that fly in the air, not so much. Like, okay, I don't like bats because they're creepy and gross and they should all die. Mice, ooh. Snakes, no problem. Squirrels, any other kind of possum, I don't even care. But like birds, I used to be okay with birds until we had a nest in our backyard that I guess the little fledglings had bird mites and they fell out and my dogs were playing with them and brought bird mites into my house.
No. Kill it with fire.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's horrible.
It was a nightmare. Like this is too long to go into of what we had to do to get rid of them in our house. And it was horrible. It's kind of like lice. But like pepper, that would be all over your body and like that.
Oh no! You said the L word. I'm going to be scratching all day.
I know, sorry. So I just don't want people to be like, she doesn't like birds. What's wrong with her? I don't like birds. That's why. Now you get it. Don't judge me.
I know Tina doesn't like potatoes, which we discovered before we came on the air.
I'm not the only one,
but we're perfectly happy to judge Tina for that. So. All right, Tina, since we're bothering you, I'm going to pass it to Tina. Is that okay, Rhonda?
Yeah.
There's a real life Snow White on the Facebook. She like walks down in her property and the bunnies and the squirrels and the birds all come to her and eat out of her hand.
Aww. Yeah. I need to start practicing that.
She lives in harmony with the mites.
Yeah. It's baby slapping friends on Facebook.
Hey, before you get full into yours, I'm sorry. There's some hilarious things in chat. I've got to, first of all, Sage says she's totally with me. I am an ornithophobe. I didn't know there was a word for it. I feel so much better now. Thank you, Sage. Maria says, new game. Say an animal and guess whether Jen loves it or hates it. Gigi says she's not a bird person, but they have barn swallows that nest in the neighbor's paper box. Barn swallows. And then martins.
The dog is scared.
Yeah. And then if you have purple martins, which are they're super great for mosquitoes, but they always would roost they would make a nest near our door, and then you couldn't get in the house because they will attack you. So
wow, nature is pretty ferocious.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, before you start, I want to say welcome to our new chatter, Sarah Mitchell.
Oh,
nice
hi,
Sarah. Okay, my what's up is I haven't left the house for 3 weeks.
Life as usual.
I don't like potatoes. And I don't know. That's about it. I'm taking a web development course, and I do not know what I was thinking. I thought I was smart, and then I started taking a web development course.
Yeah, because it's a lot of like mess around until you figure out the right answer, isn't it, Tina?
Yeah, they're kind of like, you will learn by making mistakes and trying to figure things out on your own. And I'm like, well, that's why I took a web development course.
I can make mistakes all day by myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need a course on how to make mistakes. Kind of the queen of that.
So yeah, that's my life. What about you, Jamie?
All right.
Well, what I want to know first is Rhonda's amazing story about those panels behind her, because she told me she would say that for the what's up, and I want to know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, it may not be amazing to anybody but me, but all right, I like genealogy and I like old things and things connected. Well, my third great grandfather had a daughter who married a McCandlish. And so there's a road in my hometown called McCandlish Road. And the farmhouse that she and her husband built in 1880 something is still standing there. Well, last summer I went there, they had an estate sale. And these windows are original to the original house.
Nice.
So that is my story about my backdrop.
So they're actually like related to you.
Yes. A while ago, quite distantly, but it's not that distantly.
We should play 6 Degrees of Separation with Rhonda's windows.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I
think that's a great idea
for us to be related to Rhonda's window. Well, that's awesome. Okay, now I'll say my what's up. I've been trying to think of ways to pass the time that are novel that I could share. And I didn't really think of anything too earth-shattering, except what I have been doing is making a music to quarantine playlist on my phone. So I have been, if it ever occurs to me that I would like to hear a certain song, or if I'm sitting out in the backyard and, for example, I think of Morning Has Broken by John Denver, I'm putting it all in this one playlist. And anytime I'm having a moment that is happy or peaceful or serene, excuse me, I try to take that moment and find a song that matches, so that I can listen to my journal of songs that gave me a good feeling during this time. So it's just something I pass along. Everybody else might want to make their own playlist. And I have to mute because I have to cough.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, let's check in with the chat again. Robin says that her what's up is Camp NaNoWriMo started, getting lots of writing done. That is awesome. Maria says, my what's up, Camp Nano is here. I've had a good start typing up words for my notebook, but now I have to write words from scratch. That's awesome. I think there was one more in here. Yep. Sage says, whoops, it didn't click. My what's up, I'm caught up on CIWP prompts. Well, not today's yet, and updated my podcast, and also very much judging Tina for the potato thing. So yeah, that's exciting.
It's funny.
Everybody's judging me, man.
Yeah. And just a reminder too, if anybody has a Camp Nano cabin that they want to invite us to, we're too lazy to start one this time. So just let us know. Okay.
We won't be active at all. We just want to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started on our topic today, because I think there's going to be a whole lot to say about it. So today we're talking about hurting our characters. And let me just start by saying something about myself. I don't like hurting my characters. I love my characters. They are very special to me. And it's one problem I have writing is having dramatic enough disasters or whatever, pinch points, whatever you want to call them, because I want everything to be nice and happy in my writer's life. Real life is hard. I want my story life to be happy. So maybe I didn't write any genre. I don't know. I have no idea. But if you guys could give me some advice today on how you do it, I'd appreciate it.
Great. Sounds good. So how should we start? Should we start, first of all, talking about like why you should hurt your characters?
Tell me why, because you need to convince me first.
Okay. So anyone want to take a swing at that?
Because it's fun.
No, no, it's not.
When the podcast, when we're finished, I mean, you need to go back and read the chat, because at the very beginning, people were commenting already on how excited they were about this topic. And one person, I think it was Robin, said, it's her favorite thing to do. And I laughed because I'm thinking, you're like the polar opposite of Rhonda. But okay, so all joking aside, it is kind of fun because like you can hurt your characters because they're not real. Let's be honest, Rhonda, they really aren't real.
No,
but you are also the person that redeems them or heals them or brings something good out of that hurt.
Ooh.
So
all right,
that
that's a
makes
good
it.
point.
So, like, for example, I know I keep talking about my books, but that's what I know the most about. With we lost J.R. Nichols. With my book, my second book, Saving Esther, John is injured right off the bat, like injured so bad that he has a limp now. He's probably going to be physically injured the rest of his life. However, if he had never been injured, he never would have been sent home from the war. And guess who he never would have met? So you have to think about that kind of stuff. So you don't just hurt them just to hurt them. You want to hurt them for reasons that will move the story forward, will change their perspective, will change their character arc, or change like what's going to happen in the story. And then you also get to be the one that redeems it. So
okay, one question. Well, first of all, to our chatter, Sarah, I've read my obligatory Dickens, but I'll tell you never for pleasure, just for that reason.
I love Dickens. I love Dickens.
Can we judge Rhonda now?
Yeah, if we can judge Rhonda now. We're all going to change.
No, because really, I am someone who's sort of in Rhonda's camp, but have become reformed in this area because I never used to like to hurt my characters either. And there's like these simulation games you can play on the computer where you create these little people. And I never want to give them bad lives either. Like I'm always filling all of their request meters in this little online game because I feel like if you create something, it's your job to give it a pleasant life experience. But then when I think about the way my creator manages my life, and I realize that the downs really help me appreciate the ups. The lows really help me appreciate the highs. And as much as I think I would want a flat existence, I'm not sure that life would be worth living if it was consistently flat. Although I am trying to seek a little bit of a flat line. I'm trying not to be so mercurial in my emotions, but I'm not sure that I would appreciate the good if I didn't experience the bad in my own life.
Right.
And you can always just imagine your readers reading your book and just bawling their eyes out. And that will bring you satisfaction.
No, that's fun. Okay, I can go with that. Thank you. Thank you for speaking my language, Tina.
I had a little bit of satisfaction reading a scene to Jamie once and her tearing up as I read it. I remember that. I never thought about that, but there is some satisfaction there about having a reader have any kind of emotional pull, right? From your book. Whoops. I just accidentally took I didn't mean to take you out of the stream entirely. I was just trying to mute you until your mic straightened out. But I think there is for sure some like satisfaction in like causing someone that's reading your books to cry, right? Sage agrees with you, Rhonda. She said, I'm going to unmute you. She said she's the same as you, that she creates her characters having had pain and she doesn't want them to suffer more. But that's still pain, right? Like you've made this person up. And so you just don't put it on the page. It's just something we know about in advance, right?
I guess that's kind of what I do. Mine they're coming out of something and they're healing maybe. So I think she just nailed it.
Well, and you're talking about sort of like an emotional hurt, right?
Well, I don't like bleeding either.
Yeah. So there's like many ways you can hurt your character too. So we don't have to make them be someone with a limp like John. It can be that they're having a crisis internally somehow, a growth that needs to happen, right? So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to say there's many different ways that you can hurt your character. You don't have to invent like a Godzilla to come and storm through the city. There's lots of ways to be hurt. Just like we were talking about disasters, when we're plotting our story, we don't really necessarily mean a physical tornado or a hurricane. Your characters can have hurts that don't manifest, like Rhonda said, a big open gash or something like that.
Right. And so to sum up, I think why you should do it, I want to put up here what Sage just said in the chat. One of her teachers used to say, if there's no ups and downs, that's called flatlining, and it means you're dead.
Nice.
And we have read writing that feels dead, and that I think is the reason, is because there's not enough emotion, and sometimes you have to have the pain in order to have if everything's always happy, then it feels pretty flat. Even if it's up here, everything's happy, but it's still flat, right? So it feels like a flat writing. So, but then how do we do that, right? Is that your next question, Rhonda?
Well, no, actually, I had another question from, we were talking about John earlier. That was in the beginning of the story, before anybody really had a chance to get to know him, fall in love with him or anything. Mm-hmm. So as the writer, did you write that first, or did you come back after?
I had that scene. I don't know where that scene came from, but that's one of the first things I wrote in that scene was I knew that scene from the beginning before I even put it into ink. And I knew that I was going to leave at that scene with you thinking that they had both died. And if you recall that. So I knew but that's not the only time I hurt John either. If you recall the book, like there's a lot of pain in John's life, and then there's pain from his past. Now that this kind of goes towards what you and Sage were saying, my characters, all these two characters in this book specifically, come in with pain from their past, but they have to revisit it. So if there's pain from the past, that's another way you could hurt them, is make them revisit it. Because if we don't ever deal with our hurts, our past hurts, then they're just still going to always be there. It's going to be like an open wound that just keeps festering and never gets healed. Same thing with our characters.
Very deep. Thank you. Oh. Okay, Jamie, you were going to go on to
well, just the different kinds of ways that you can hurt your character, which I think we've covered all of them, except we haven't really talked much about a spiritual hurt that a person could experience, which I think is often overlooked in writing characters. And especially from a Christian viewpoint, sometimes it makes it a little sticky to talk about Christians just not having everything be smooth sailing, because a lot of people want to just be focused on the positive. So it's interesting to talk about that possibility that someone might have a spiritual hurt.
That comes into play quite a bit in my novel that I'm getting ready to hopefully publish. She feels unforgivable, and that affects her relationship with God. And like the story is not just a physical journey, it's also a spiritual and an emotional journey for the character to find some peace on all those fronts. So
now, Tina, do any of your other characters feel pain, or do you just focus on the one character?
Yeah, there's other characters that are also like kind of taking a spiritual journey, and they're not all starting in the same place. So for example, my main character Angelica feels unforgivable, but then there's other characters that feel like self-righteous. And then there's other characters who are like Petra is like a goody, but he struggles when he feels like not following the rules is the right thing to do. So so they all kind of take a journey in that, and it's all because of the law that they're under. The religious law that they're
so
living
their pain
under.
in a way is similar.
Yeah.
Maybe different degrees depending on the importance of the character.
And it affects them all differently. It's hurting them, but it's doing it differently with each one of them in a different way.
Okay. All right. So I guess maybe to add some drama, should I just kill off my character right in the center and just show?
Well,
what is too much? What is too much pain?
Who was it that put on our outline, kill your character, not the story? Who put that there? Because whoever that was a very good thing to say, and it wasn't me. Was it Tina?
I didn't put it in the outline, but I said it.
Maybe I typed it.
Somebody else typed it. Yeah.
So what did you mean when you said kill your character, not the story? Talk more about that.
Well, yeah, if you kill your character, okay, if you were writing Sherlock Holmes, and right in the middle of the Hound of Baskervilles, he dies, you have just killed your story. right? Like, because he is the story. So you have to make sure that whatever you do to your character is not so catastrophic that you're going to kill the story and make your reader just throw up their hands and say, forget it.
Yeah, it reminds me of those old soap operas from the 80s where people would be dead and they would have the big funeral because they couldn't work out the contract with the actor. And then they'd have to write back this ridiculous, I don't know, face swapping thing to have like a new actor. Oh, he didn't die after all. You don't want to have to do something unbelievable like that to spare your book, you know?
Yeah.
But I do say if you're going to kill a character, it has to be an important enough character that people are going to care. It can't be someone you just introduce into. Now, I mean, if it's a murder mystery and you know, like, and it doesn't really matter. They just show up once and then they die. That's one thing,
right?
Like,
if they're wearing a red shirt, for example.
Oh yes, exactly.
So you're saying I can't make up characters based on people in real life and kill them just for the pleasure of it?
You totally can. Okay. I absolutely endorse that. But what I'm saying is if you want that emotional pull, if you want that so it's not a flatlining story, if we're looking for highs and lows, it has to be someone you care about. Like, you know, I don't want to say a name because if somebody hasn't read my book yet, like especially in my second book, someone passes away that I think people like. And I think people are not going to be happy with me that this person dies. But it has to for the story to work and for the next story to work as well. So you just have to make sure that I agree with Tina. Do not kill off someone that's so important that it's going to kill your story, but kill off someone that's important enough that people care.
Yep.
I'm reading this chat. It's just cracking me up. So
I know.
I'm not participating much just because you guys are so funny in there, but it's hard to say everything. I just want to clarify to Maria and anyone else who misunderstood. I didn't ever say Christians should be represented as lives without pain. I'm saying that there are Christians who do not want to believe that Christians still endure hard times. So just you understand my position on it. As a
for sure, because we are all experiencing what we're all going through right now, so that it's clear that Christians will experience pain as well. So
yeah, Jamie, you brought up soap operas from the 80s earlier, and someone mentioned Days of Our Lives and Marlena and her amazing ability to come back from the dead. But remember when JR was shot? I was like 8 years old or something, and I still remember that whole summer wondering, oh, he's dead. What happened? You know, so that was definitely pain for JR.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe if you ended a book that way, and I don't know if you'd want to end a book that way. Well, anyway,
maybe a chapter.
Yep.
Or if you are a serial writer where you're writing books that are for sure series and you have to read them in order and you have to get the next one, maybe you could do it that way. So, yeah.
But if you have a pain in the beginning of your book, you need to resolve it somehow.
Yes.
By the end of the book. Whether or not the character is all better and living a happily ever after doesn't matter. There just needs to be an ending to this is where the character is now based on where they started.
I think that's a fair point, Tina, because if you have a book that's entirely drudgery and pain, just like a book that has zero drudgery or pain, you're going to have a flat situation. It's just going to be darker and still flat. So you can't only have the pain without the happy times. It's got to be, it has to mirror real life. I mean, isn't that what art is supposed to be doing, is imitating life? And our real lives just are not flat. I think it's very interesting, Rhonda, how you noticed that cliffhanger helped you to be invested in the show. And if somebody who is not sure how to hurt their characters just thinks about what made them care about a character in a book. And if they think long and hard enough, they will believe or come to realize that it's the struggle the character goes through in the book that makes them relatable, someone they could identify with, someone they could root for, someone that they want to see be the winner. And you can't cheer for somebody who's already a winner. It's hard to cheer for them.
I never watched Dallas, but wasn't JR a bad guy in that show? And so everybody was all up and, crying like, who shot JR? I remember that.
He's the guy that you love to hate.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, even if it's a person that the reader's going to hate, you have to make them care somehow.
Very good. Yeah. Those writers obviously did a good job.
So are we going to share some specific examples of ways to help to hurt? I know we've kind of skimmed through the different ways. Like we said physical, emotional, spiritual, but exactly what does that look like? So like physical hurt, like so John physically was injured in the war and had a spine injury, so it affected his walking. That's one way. You could have actual injuries. What are some other ways?
Well, you could have. Go ahead, Tina.
I just got done binge watching Anne with an E on Netflix, which is a remake of Anne of Green Gables. And one of her pains was that she had red hair and freckles, and it like haunted her. Sorry, Rhonda.
That was about me. No, actually, I read that story when I was a kid because of that.
It was
so dramatic.
It was twofold because she was an orphan, and she had red hair and freckles, and she was just felt like she was doomed. So like that followed her. She would pray at night, God, could you just make me beautiful? So.
And isn't that something that was just a belief she held, that was an injury? Isn't that interesting? So it's actually a false belief that the author gave Anne to believe that was ugly. So the false belief was really what was hurting her. Pretty deep.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you can have an actual physical person hurt your character. You could have them either be a bully and just taunt and jeer, which is like an emotional hurt, or you can have them like stick a branch in their bicycle spoke and send them crashing to the ground. So, I mean, another character can cause pain on your character, can inflict pain on your character.
Definitely.
Jamie, I think it was you too that mentioned we were playing this about having like having non-traditional beauty, having like where the world doesn't see you as beautiful. That could be like the pain. That kind of goes along with what you said about Anne. And birth defects and things like that. So it doesn't always have to be like someone hurt in a war. It doesn't always have to be, having an arm severed or like that. There are different physical things that can happen to a character that is still a pain for them. But
so does the injury have to be connected to the plot, or is it just something writing alongside the plot?
I would think that it is entirely dependent upon the themes of your book, so to speak. So John's injury was important and carried throughout the entire book. I mean, it was very wrapped up in, emotional pain. Like who knows if his limp wasn't better when he healed emotionally, like, for example, right? So sometimes it's very important. And sometimes the injury is just to kind of advance the scene. Ouch, I burnt my hand because the pan was hot. It just makes the cooking in the kitchen scene more interesting if they burn their hand. That doesn't mean that burned hand is going to prevent them from being able to shake someone's hand later. So it really just depends on the importance of that injury as it pertains to the plot line, because sometimes they're just little flicky things that propel your character's anger. For example, misbutton my shirt and then I stub my toe and then blah, 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 which leads to an outburst, which is important to the plot. So it could be, but don't just do it for the sake of doing it, I guess, to answer your question. Could someone back me up with that, Jennifer?
Yeah. Absolutely agree. It has to, in my opinion, and I think all people would agree, it has to either move the story forward or it has to affect the character arc.
Yes.
Like if it's not going to affect your story, then why are you doing it? Like what Jamie was saying about like burning your hand in the stove. I would even agree that has to have a purpose, whether or not it's just the fact that makes her run to the sink and run cold water on her hand. And then she sees that letter sitting there that she never opened, and then moves the story forward. It has to, you can't just have them burn themselves on the stove and then move on to something else. Cause then that's still flatlining. It's not doing anything. So it has to either move the story forward or affect the character arc.
And if you give your character something like a birth defect or red hair and freckles, it affects character development, and then that affects how your character views their world.
Correct.
And how they react to their world, and that affects your plot.
Agree.
Sage has a really good progression here. Jen, I don't know if you want to put it up, but
the last one there.
Yep.
Okay.
She says, I have a character who can't get pregnant, which is traumatic for her. Then her sister gets pregnant, which hurts her. And she feels guilty for jealousy, which adds to the trauma. That's
so real.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
very
really
real. Yeah, and that would fall under emotional hurt. What don't you think? I mean, that's not a physical hurt. That's an emotional hurt. So that's a great transition for us to go into like some examples for that.
Yeah, because Jennifer was really clear. She's like, let's not just tell our listeners to hurt their characters. Let's make sure they're equipped to do so in their very next writing session, right? We want you guys to feel like you really know the how to do this. So do we have any specific tips or tricks if you want to go right now and write a scene that hurts your characters?
Well, you can always go with the standby method of a certain animated brand name that makes animated children movies, where almost every story one of the parents is dead.
Oh, yes. Yep,
if
we
you
know
go back and look through all those movies, you'll see like
a very popular animated company.
One or both of the parents is dead.
And that's a very good maybe baby step, because chances are you don't care much about the parents if you're so you could kill off a parent and practice your hurting someone, because that will also hurt your characters, right? So like if your mom dies, now you have a hurt. So you can kill a character that's not so important, but then play around with the fallout with your other characters. How would they respond if Susie Q, bit the dust in chapter 3? How would that affect Wally or whoever is in your story?
Or how, even if coming into it, like if you want their hurts to happen beforehand, how would it hurt a character if they lost their parent as a child? Whether it was like death, or what about like if the parent walked out on them, like with John, like he lost a parent way before, but you can't just mention it and have it happen beforehand. It has to affect the story, and we have to be able to experience that along with the character, which I think we do with John. So same thing with Lost Love.
My character's mom left and never came back, and she doesn't know why or where she is, or
right. Exactly.
I think we're really stumbling into some territory to where we're realizing that our characters did not come to us in a vacuum. They act the way that they do because of their previous hurts that you may not know have happened to them before you were introduced to them. So maybe what you could do is one of your characters that you love writing about, sit down and pretend that they're telling somebody else about something that really hurt them, that shaped them and made them how they are. So for example, if you write a character who's always perpetually brave, maybe they witnessed something or endured something that made them brave. And you can go and find those hurts that exist in that character, because you're writing a character that's fully formed in your own mind. They don't happen in a vacuum. People do not grow up and become adults without hurts.
Exactly. Robin gave a great, she said, what if the character is the reason one parent is dead and the other one is in prison for life? There's an emotional baggage right there.
Robin, I want to read it.
Yeah, Robin, do you write for the people who do Dallas and Dynasty? That sounds very gripping and interesting.
Yeah. Right. Because I mean, like, it's always easy for the emotional hurt to go right to the fact that they've lost a love, right? Because I mean, I write romance, so obviously that's easy for me. But there's more there for emotional. I think that's really good. Like, there's always going to be some sort of baggage. So good stuff. All right, and then we talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Rhonda.
go ahead.
So I forgot I wasn't hosting.
Let's play who's the host.
I'm so sorry. I just really thought I was host just for a second there.
Rhonda was happy. She was like,
hey. No, did you have a thought, Jen, or were you just moving
I was
on?
just going to move on to the next topic.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, does anybody have a final thought about this? Because we do need to get on to our sprints.
I want to talk about spiritual.
I'm going to go back and read. Yeah, do that, Jennifer. But then I'm going to encourage everybody to go back and read the chat later, because we just can't possibly. Our listeners are founts of knowledge and wisdom about this topic. So just because it didn't come out of our mouths doesn't mean it ain't true. So read our chat. Jen, go.
Right. So, okay. So we talked about how you don't often think about spiritual hurt. Sometimes when you're writing a book, we think about the physical parts, but that there really is a lot that could happen there. Tina had brought up, I think it was Tina brought up church abuse. Because your books cover that, right? About how you feel that, how in your story, it was how it came from church leaders, one of her emotional hurts, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it's like living under the law versus grace.
Right.
Which I think that we tend to do that in this day and age, even in the age of grace, is we tend to put the law on people. And that could definitely fall under church abuse.
You could also have a character that is angry with God, for nothing physical, but just maybe things that have happened in their life and they were blaming God for it. That would for sure be a spiritual hurt. That would be a great character arc to write about. Feeling like God's left you or forsaken you, and just think about the yummy things you could do with that in a story.
Or cults.
Yep, cults. That's a good one. Yeah.
Because that could add physical danger too, on top of the spiritual hurt.
And there's a lot of intertwining between emotional hurt and spiritual hurt, I think, too, because I think there's so much of our spirit that is connected to our emotions. So, yeah.
Barbie says something interested in seeing two characters have the same hurt and seeing the difference in the reaction. For instance, Tara and Melody in Gone with the Wind. That is something I could get behind. I think I could write that.
Oh my goodness!
Not Gone with the Wind, but
The Hiding Place by Cora Ten Boom.
I never read that.
Oh, Rhonda. Oh, that is quarantine must read for you because the you will love it because it's two.
I've read some of her things.
It's two sisters experiencing the concentration camp experience and such different perspectives. You will love it. I promise.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, any other comments about this topic?
I'm sure we could go on forever, but
yeah, we probably could. Okay. Next time you read something of mine, I'll let you know if it worked for me or not. Okay, so let's go on to Feeding of the Backs.
Yay!
Okay. So what we did is we spent 15 minutes before we went live, and we all used the same prompt, and we just wrote. It was just a word sprint. There is no judgment. There is no harsh critique. Only happy thoughts and nice comments.
Well, and I have to admit, it was like 15 minutes and 5 seconds today because the guy was going 3, 2, 1, and I was muted and I was mid-sentence. So I went after the timer went off. So everybody gets 5 extra seconds today because of me.
Thank you for that.
And I don't know how happy it's going to be because of the prompt.
Yeah, what was the prompt?
Your most
okay. Go
ahead, Rhonda.
I just had everything just stopped for me for a second. So, anyway, who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first.
Okay, can you read the prompt too, please?
Sure.
All right.
If I can find it. Here it is. The most painful experience of your life. Dun, dun, dun. Trying to force people to do something painful to their character, I guess. So that was our prompt. 15 minutes to write about the most painful experience of your life, and here's mine. A sound pierces my consciousness. Men's voices. They are laughing. In a millisecond, I remember the events of the night before, and I realize I have been the source of their levity. A chick passed out in the men's bathroom. But it doesn't bother me. Their banter is my lifeline, and I pull myself hand over hand back to the surface and conscious thought. My eyes open, and I am treated to the view of a dirty tile floor and the yellowed line of caulk that attaches the commode to it. I smell nothing, a blessing to be sure. My olfactory senses long decimated by a 10-year chain smoking habit. I wait until I hear the door squeak, signifying the exit of my jovial companions. Then I unfold myself to standing, a feat made possible only by leaning heavily on the commode, which someone has vomited into and upon, probably me. In a flash of empathy for the unfortunate soul destined to deal with the mess, I take a half-hearted swipe at it with some TP before staggering out of the stall and propping myself against the sink. My new proximity to the urinals negates my olfactory malfunction, and I take in the stench of urinal cake. I collapse over the sink and begin rinsing my mouth with water, insisting to my confused brain that it is clean in spite of the evidence to the contrary my nostrils are sending to my brain. A groan gurgles up from some long-buried well inside my soul, and along with it 8 little words that would be the fulcrum of the new direction for my life. I have come to the end of myself.
Wow. So, can I ask, did it prompt you to write fiction, or because you wrote it in first person?
Well, like that could have been me, I guess, at one point in my life. Like it's, right, I understand. Fiction. I understand. Yeah, it's fiction for sure.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like,
the line is a little blurred. Is a little.
I wasn't trying to get nosy. I was just trying to figure out what feedback to give, right?
Yeah.
Because like that was just, I was there. Oh,
Yeah,
like just
I know.
so. You should have seen mine and Rhonda's faces. We're both like horrible. I can't wait for you to go back and watch this, Jamie, because our faces were classic.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, very good.
I could smell the urinal cake. I just felt like I was right there. That was so good.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
And I love her. I love the last line.
Yeah, well, that's what it was like. Okay, so I only had 15 minutes, but like that was really the thrust of the story. Like I really wanted her to kind of do a soul searching in the mirror, looking in the eyes moment, but it was 15 minutes. So I had to do the setup and take a kind of cheap punchline. I felt, you know what I mean, because the time restriction. But I think it still worked as a.
Oh yeah,
it was good.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, a urinal cake is the most gross smell. It's like a fruity, so now you're smelling fruity pee. I don't even know how to explain it. It's weird.
Oh yeah, so it's like, not a cake that you eat or anything.
No.
It's like a scented, like it's supposed to make it smell better. And it's like these hard discs that
like
look
sachet sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. They look
it's kind a terrible smell.
Yeah. You know those things that maybe you guys don't have them, but those things that you can plop in the back in the tank of your toilet. They are kind of like that, but yet they just sit in the urinal and they just
and take on the pee.
Not that I spent a lot of time in a urinal or in a men's bathroom, but you only have to be in one. Like I've helped clean at the church before, and it's not.
Sage says, dank and yucky, count yourself lucky and keep it that way. She's like, stay out of the men's room. I mean, yeah, because they open them up for concerts sometimes. I mean, well, and let's face it, like I went to the men's room by accident the other day and did my whole thing and came out and I'm like, oh, urinals, this is interesting. No wonder there were only 2 stalls. It was totally a dork move. It was completely and my husband's waiting outside.
Mm-hmm. He didn't stop you.
No, well, he didn't see me. He only saw me come out. No, he went in there and used it while I was in there. That's what it was. He used the urinal while I was in the stall and then waited for me to come out and was like,
did he know you were in the stall?
Yes, he knew. That's how he's a clown. I mean, and then he just thought it was so funny. Anyway.
Well, at least you didn't want to use one of those new toilets on the wall.
It was funny because I thought it was weird. There were only 2 stalls. I'm like, this is very strange for a Walmart to only have 2 stalls. And I don't even know how I missed the urinals on the way in. I think it was an urgent situation, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I didn't care. I was like, I must find, this situation. So.
Okay. I have a similar story. We went downtown Flint to get a water sample. We had to test our water of our well. And you have to go into like a municipal building that part of it is actually like courthouses and other parts are where you go, like if you're signing up for food stamps. And then there's this little office. And I was urgent. And I said to my husband, I have to go to the bathroom. And I went in really fast. And I got in there and I went in and I sat down the stall and I could see through the crack. I could see the urinals. And I'm like, I'm not staying here. I'd already started going, right? So I'm trying to hurry up and a guy comes in. I'm like, oh dear, please, dear Lord of all. The guy came in, just washed his hands, praise Jesus. And he walked out and I hurried out. I didn't even wash my hands. I was just like, I gotta get out of here. And I come walking out, my husband's standing there waiting for me, facing the women's bathroom. And I come out behind him and I'm like, let's get out of here before anyone sees me.
Doesn't the smell tip you guys off?
This was not
urgent. When you gotta go, when there's a problem, you are not paying any attention.
Did you hear the explanation of where I was?
Oh yeah.
The women's bathroom was not gonna be nice. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man.
Oh golly. Okay.
Okay. Who's next?
Tina, how about you go?
All right. Write about the most painful experience of your life, they said. Did they know what they were asking of her? She sat before her keyboard searching for adjectives that didn't exist. How do you describe a feeling that wasn't a feeling at all, really, but more like a physical presence? A presence so heavy that it presses you down until you know you'll never get up again. A presence that wraps itself around you so tightly that each excruciating breath feels like it will be your last. and so cold that it freezes you up so that you can't move, can't think, can't speak. To describe it would be like comparing a splinter to a broken bone, a drop of water to an ocean. It was less of a feeling than it was flashes of grayscale memories. But the moment before, she remembered that like it happened yesterday. They'd put her on the OB floor with the old ladies having hysterectomies so she wouldn't have to see all the new moms gazing adoringly down at the perfect little creatures in their arms, or the fathers gazing in wonder and adoration at them both. Don't go to the nursery, they'd said, but she'd never been very good at doing what she was told. And so she stood in a room filled with soft yellow light and decorated in soft pinks and blues before a bassinet with a card taped to it that said, "Baby boy." It was blue and had a little blue teddy bear. He was sleeping, his perfect little fist lying in front of his tiny button nose. His plump lips made sucking noises and his cheek looked like the soft skin of a peach. She reached out her forefinger to touch it, and as quick as a flash, he grabbed hold of it with that little fist of Herculean strength. And he was gazing into her eyes with the wisdom of one who'd recently been in the presence of God. That was the moment she felt it. The connection with another person that bound you to them for eternity. She didn't look away from his gaze like she always did when people tried to look her in the eye. Her heart swelled. So this was love. What a fool she'd been to think her heart had been broken. What folly the tears that had drenched her pillow. Though it was only a few months ago, it seemed ages ago that her childish thoughts had thought her life was ruined and begged God to end it. But it had been nothing, a drop in the ocean. If only she were strong enough to know that she could face another day. If only her mind weren't a fragmented torture of demons she couldn't name. If only everything she touched didn't fall to pieces. Then his eyes were closed again. His lips resumed their sucking motions and his grip relaxed. A nurse stood in the doorway with a look that said, "You shouldn't be here." And so she slipped her finger from his hand and walked out the doors of the soft yellow room into the dark.
Wow. Tina, I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard you write. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't think Jamie's talking right now. Jennifer?
Tina, I love you.
I love you, Tina.
And this was beautiful. And we've talked before about how you struggle to write emotions because I think that like you don't want to feel emotions, and I get it. And I appreciate you sharing this with us. Well done.
So
very
good.
emotional. Very emotional. This is exactly what we need from you in your story. It doesn't have to be this personal, but if you could just bottle this up, man, you're going to take the world with your writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, how do you like connect to it?
Yeah.
When it hurts so bad, right?
When it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
If you could only focus on the things that hurt, then you'll be in a pain a lot. But then, like we talked about earlier with your characters, that you won't really understand the true feeling of joy if you aren't willing to experience the true pain with our characters and with ourselves, right?
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing we didn't talk about today was drawing from your own personal fountain, which Tina obviously did today.
A lot of chat going on for you, Tina.
Yeah.
Sage says, "I'm so glad I'm not on camera right now because I am wrecked."
Thanks, Sage.
And
Jamie, do you want to comment or?
Headphones.
I got her.
Okay.
Jamie, are you able to comment on anything, or?
I think she's frozen.
Oh, I think she's frozen too. We've had so many problems today, mostly because of me actually running behind with. We lost Jamie. Well, I guess Jamie will have to comment to you off screen, Tina, because I know she has lots of words. I'm sure, but
I'm sure of it.
So, how about if I go next?
Okay.
Your heart clear? You feel good, Tina? For us to move on, or?
Yep.
Okay. Again, I love you.
Thanks.
And I love your heart. All right. Here's mine. Funerals aren't for the mourners. This is a truth I learned the hard way. When my aunt died, it felt like life was moving 100 miles an hour while simultaneously moving in slow motion. I don't know how else to explain it. Time was just strange. One minute, you're sitting in the doctor's office listening to him say encouraging words about treatments, all the while giving you side glances that portray a much different outlook. The next minute, you are standing in an empty funeral home, looking down into a casket at the one you have no idea how you will live without. And it's hard, but it's not the hardest part. Then come the well-wishers, friends and family. Some come just to let you know they care. Some come because they too lost a part of them when this loved one died. Down deep inside, you know no one hurts the way you do. No one's life will be as affected as you by the death of this person, but you don't say that. Instead, you offer sympathetic smiles, encouraging words, and warm hugs to everyone else. You repeat the same stories, answer the same questions. No, it happened very quickly. She wouldn't let us tell anyone at first. We all thought we had more time with her. She got to be home when she passed. You keep up this onslaught because, well, frankly, you have to. No one else can. It's your responsibility. Even though all you want to do is crawl into a corner and hide, you don't. You stand tall, you remain strong, and you comfort others. But this is not the hardest part. Then the room is empty again, and you stand once more in front of that casket, and you watch as they close the lid, knowing that this is the very last time you will ever see this person, the last time you get to be with her, and you break. A flood of tears, sobs, convulsions take over. This can't be happening. This can't be real. But down deep inside, you know it is, and it hurts. But this is not the hardest part. The next day, and the day after, and for many days, you wake in the morning and the reality hits you. She's gone, but you must go on. Everyone else's life goes on as if the earth hadn't just been pulled out from under you. Everywhere around you, life goes on as usual, and you can't find the strength to pull yourself out of bed. But you have to. You have to move on. You have to occupado until the Lord returns or calls you home. And this is the hardest part. But praise God, you do not walk this path alone. 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
We should have had a disclaimer for everyone to get Kleenex.
I know it. And Jennifer, yours touches me personally too, because I lost my grandma just a couple months before you lost your aunt. And you're right. At the funeral home, it is not just to say our last respects. It's to be there to comfort the people who are living still. And I just don't think people understand that.
It's not about you at all. Like the people that are the ones that are the closest, like it's not about you. The funeral isn't. You don't realize that. It's about everyone else who comes in because you end up comforting them and you end up like giving them, and you have to be strong and yeah. So we have some chat going on. Maria says the prompts right now. So as excellent as you guys are at writing, I've muted you for now, but I will try to listen to them later when I hit the wrong one. So, all right, Maria, hope you listen to, she said she's had a tough week and been emotionally quite exhausting. So she shouldn't have the emotional strength right now. I get that.
I can understand that.
Yep.
I had to do that with this podcast that I was watching that had to do with nutrition, and they were talking about the virus, and they were talking about how to be to boost your immune system, and I just couldn't listen to it. Like just talking about the virus was just making me anxious, and I just turned it off. So I totally get it. Oh, Jamie's back.
I know. Yay. So random how my service will just cut out. I know that there's some problem at the connector switchaboo that they were supposed to fix when they fixed my whatever. So whatever. Internet is just being flaky. So did I miss everybody's stories? I have to go back and listen.
We're waiting for next is Rhonda.
Yay! Okay, it's me. Here's my 211 words. All right. Mitzi wrapped me in her delicate embrace, the fragrance of lilies of the valley engulfing and comforting me. She hugged me like that for a moment, then held me at arm's length while she wiped the mascara off my cheeks with the lace hanky from her breast pocket. Come on now, girl, let's hear it. Tell Mitzi all about it and you'll feel better, she said,
Aw.
her drawl as comforting as her hug. She hooked her arm in mine and led me to her couch, the tufted leather one that she told me she'd brought from her husband's office after he passed away. The thought of this precious woman enduring the loss of her lifelong love made my heart ache even more, but it was a welcome relief thinking of her sorrow for a moment after wallowing in mine these last 2 days. Mitzi, I don't want you to think about it anymore. I don't want to think about it anymore. Can we talk about something else for a while? I tried to force my face into a smile, but her reaction told me that effort failed. Honey, you can't let this fester. Just talk about it now. Heck, maybe it's not even as bad as it feels right now. I knew she was right. Mitzi is always right. I've known her for less. The end.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. The nugget of truth in there that I love is when Mitzi admits that she'd rather talk about this woman's sorrow because she's tired of talking about her own. Yes. You get there.
Yep.
So yeah, 100%. Love that. That you
I
get
think
to that point.
yes, and I think that's why it's so interesting when the Lord commands us to bear one another's burdens, that actually helps us. I think that when we are that for people, that there's blessings there for us, and that's just an obvious one. You can think about someone else's woes for just a little while. It might make yours seem a little more farther away. So there's never a bad thing to be that for somebody, right?
Agreed.
Be a Mitzi. I love her drawl. That's so comforting. Her Southern drawl. I immediately thought of our listener Gigi, because I remember when I listened to her read her story, how much I just loved her comforting voice. Like she could totally just make me feel better about anything. She'd probably just say, "Oh, come on now," or something in her beautiful voice, and I'd be like, "Yes, I'm better."
Yeah. Sage too. Oh my word, her voice is like liquid gold.
Do you find it interesting that of the four of us, the one person that was not wanting to hurt her characters writes a really upbeat, kind of a loving from this prompt, and the rest of us are like,
well, that is why I went last, because I wanted to not.
Well, this is someone who is hurting, who is going for help. So it's really sort of a hospital scene that Rhonda wrote, isn't it?
No, didn't mean that as a criticism. I just meant like it just matches, right? Like this is like so.
Yeah, just like how you always write romance. Jennifer, was yours a romance? I missed it.
It was not.
Oh, I can't
you need to go back and listen.
Mine was actually, I wouldn't even say creative fiction. It was just or creative nonfiction. It was nonfiction. It was just basically it sounded almost like a journal entry or something for me. So two of us did fiction, two of us did nonfiction, and yeah, this was so I know that some people were not ready for, like, even though you read the prompt or even wrote it, like this was, especially because it's been a really heavy experience for everybody these past few weeks. But like we kind of mentioned earlier about pulling from your own experiences to bring emotion into your story, that maybe we know God's in this. This is not a surprise to God, what is going on in our world today. So maybe you could take some of this emotion that you're experiencing now, some of the struggles that you're having, and just turn that into one of your characters to bring the emotion of your book deeper into something more real based on exactly what you're experiencing.
Well,
or at least keep a journal of what you're feeling, so that later down the road, when you're in a better headspace, that you can use it.
Yes, and that can be really therapeutic to just get onto paper, because a lot of times what we really need is an audience, and we forget that we have an audience of one if we will just turn to him, who is always there in times that are scary or times that are good. And if you just process some of those thoughts, you might come away feeling a little bit better about things.
Agreed.
Yep. Okay, so if that's the end of the comments about today's episode, let's move on to our What's Next segment. So, Tina, what's next for you?
Well, I'm probably spending the next 3 weeks at home. We've decided that because of some of the health issues I have, that I would be considered high risk if I got sick. So my husband is the one who is leaving the house and coming in, and I've told all my kids not to come over. And I'm even had to turn down getting my granddaughter for the weekend, so which I feel really bad about. But we have to take these precautions. So I am quarantined in the house.
You're quarantina.
Yeah, in this little corner. I'm even been put in the corner. So I'm going to be torturing myself with this web development course and working on finishing the edits for my book, and that's pretty much going to be my life.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to you sharing interesting tidbits that you've learned. Jamie?
I'll try if I can understand them.
Okay. After you've learned all the hard lessons, just let us know.
Okay.
Okay. Jamie, what's going on with you?
Well, what's going on with me, I was telling my husband, is that I am in serious rebellion mode because I'm a little bit ticked off that, like, everybody is getting all of these accommodations. Oh, work is going to be a little bit different and a little bit strange, but we're expected to continue being creative in office hours. And I hate when my creativity is prescribed in the first place. So I'm having a lot of struggles, not in being creative. I'm having a great time over on my blog. I'm writing music. I am being productive in the creative capacity. But when it comes time to doing my meat and potatoes work, this book that I'm working on that is nonfiction, I find myself feeling like I too should receive some sort of a corona vacation, and I am therefore rebelling against doing my meat and potatoes work, which is par for the course for me, and I recognize it. So I'm just trying really hard to not feel a bunch of guilt about that, because I am a creature under stress, whether I notice it or not. We are all creatures under stress right now. And I'm trying to just give myself a break because, unfortunately, I guess, our family, will still eat and still have a mortgage, whatever payment, if I do not continue my meat and potatoes writing. It's currently not bringing me in buckets of cash. So I'm trying to work on it when I feel like working on it and be creative when I feel like being creative, and just sort of see what is birthed out of this weird time in our lives. Because the nonfiction I'm writing is supposed to be something I sell on the back end of a public speech that I would do, TED Talk sort of a thing. And so I need the book to sell when I have these public speaking engagements. So the deadline is really in the ether somewhere. I don't have a hard deadline. And so I'm just trying really hard to have a lot of grace for myself and to just be like, it's okay if I'm acting weird, because the world is kind of topsy-turvy. So that's where I'm at.
I really wanted to make a snarky comment about.
Go ahead.
You always act weird.
I know.
Well, you're like doubly weird.
I know. Extra weird. Maybe I'll start acting normal and people be really scared.
Oh, yeah. That
we won't know what to do.
Yeah, really.
It'd be like that episode of SpongeBob, I have kids, where he's supposed to act normal. It's just very strange.
Don't try to blame your kids for your SpongeBob addiction.
Yeah. There are a lot of kids shows that I will claim that I like. That's not one of them.
Oh, that's fun.
Did you guys want to judge me for not liking potatoes? I'm just saying.
There's something wrong with that, though. That's Tina. That's a problem. I'm just kidding. I don't eat potatoes anymore, but I like them.
Well, what's up for you this week?
You can have mine.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Listen. All right. Before I go, we're going to head over to the chat just real quick. Sage says, I heard what's next is I'm doing a 24-hour poetry-thon.
Wow.
Tomorrow. Wow.
Night of Rhyming Dangerously? I love
That's so cool. And next week I should be finishing the edits on Love and Bloom. So is this poetry-thon something people can tune into?
Yeah, right. Why do we not know about this?
Yeah, we need a link for that. And then Robin says, what's next? Lots of writing and debating if I need to move my launch date again.
Oh, yeah.
I feel your pain. Just saying.
Is anybody doing Camp Nano, I wonder? Anyway.
All of them. I think we're the only ones not. What's next with me carrying on with Camp Nano prompt and social distancing, only leaving the house to walk the dog. That's basically where we're at too. Let me see if there's any other real quick before. Whoops. Not so much judging as questioning the logic, Tina.
Sage. Yeah, Sage isn't letting us be mean.
Okay.
I don't care if you judge me.
It's all over Twitter. What?
Yeah.
I don't care if you judge me as long as I don't have to eat the potatoes.
Good. All right, awesome. Judging continues. Okay, so my what's next. Personally, this room by next week will no longer be brown. We're gonna be doing the next step is this room, which will be a huge thing for us. So that's the plan. we'll see.
So is that like an accountability thing? Like we get to tease you if that room is still brown next week?
You could tease my husband. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it would be me too. It would be 100% would be on me too. And for writing, I am plugging along. I've not been present in office hours because life is completely upside down for me because I now have children home that were not home before, and now we are trying to find a new normal. Just yesterday, it was made official by the governor of Michigan that school is canceled for the rest of the year, but she made it up to the districts on what they were going to do, whether they continued education or they just promoted kids. I thought they're going to be just promoting kids, but we have not heard from our district yet. They said they're meeting next week. I'm already full swing homeschooling, so I'm hoping that they don't try to force on me their curriculum for the rest of the year because we already got something going on. So we'll see what happens with that. But because I am trying to find a new normal, I've not really been in office hours a whole lot, but I am still working. I just rewrote a chapter by hand last night because you guys know that sometimes when I get blocked, I just sit down with paper and pencil and it seems to activate something different in my brain. And I did that hoping to kind of get over this block for this chapter, and it didn't work. So I'm still struggling with this one chapter, but it's not the same. But it's not the same chapter I struggled with last week or the week before. I'm still making progress. It's just way slower. So
I know, and that's part of the thing too. Is you really kind of can't turn it on and off, can you? I mean, you think you're in control of your creative process, but frankly, you're just sort of not. It's really strange. Like I was all blocked up too, and you don't understand how the stress can block you up, and it just does, even in spite of yourself, even though you're trying to manage it. And just off camera, Jen, let's have a discussion because in Michigan, can't you just withdraw your kids and start homeschooling and then re-enroll them next year? You know what I mean?
Oh, I can. We'll talk about that off. There are some complications in that, but yes, with the move and everything. So yes, I totally can. Yeah. But yeah, we can talk about that off. Yeah. Maria says, "Oh, Jen, me too for the hand ring. So useful for getting over blocks." I agree. I use that a lot. It normally does work for me, but
that's a good tip.
All I can do is show up every day. Maybe not office hours. I'm gonna try to at least touch base, but show up every day for my career because we had a big talk last night at the dinner table because mom hasn't put last as I wanted it during this whole process as we figure things out, but we cannot continue this way. Mom's career will be in the dumpster if we continue this way. So we're getting a better schedule and we're going to get life back in order because my career is as important as their education is what we talked about last night. So that's what my what's next is. So I hopefully will have a better answer to next week, and I will hopefully have better walls next week.
I accept your answer.
What's next for you, Rhonda?
Yeah. What's next for me is my mama and I are doing Camp Nano, and we're holding each other accountable, and she's doing way better than I am. But also, my grass is really green outside, and that means I've got my first pansies bloomed. They're purple, and my daffodils have yellowed. They're not bloomed yet, but the buds are all there.
Mine too.
So gardening will commence today.
Yay! That's so nice. You guys have good weather today.
Beautiful.
Well, it looks beautiful from here. Tell you what, if it's over 50 degrees, then I'm going to be outside in my shorts.
It was gorgeous, sunny yesterday. Now I say gorgeous, and you're going to laugh when you hear this, but it was gorgeous and 60, which you're going to be like, but for us, that's warm right now. And today is going to be about the same. So we'll take it.
I heard it was supposed to get up into the 70s one day this week.
You did?
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook though, so it must be true.
Oh yeah, of course. It's a given. Well, my husband was out in the kayak yesterday, so it must be getting a little bit warm.
Oh, I've got to tell you guys, since you brought that up. So our canal that runs behind our house has been overgrown with grass forever. There's no way you can get anywhere in it. Well, these young people that are a couple doors down got some kind of a floating craft. I wasn't close enough to see because I didn't want to be the creepy neighbor spying on kids. But they had a couple of rakes, and one kid was pushing, and one kid was pulling through the weeds. And they've started this little path because I guess they're going to the lake. You know what I mean? It's so funny how young people will make a way. My husband's too bad we don't have something that we could go behind them and just kind of keep this energy going to where we could actually use our canal. I think it's so funny how young people will find a way. It's funny.
Yeah. That's like in Michigan, taking your snow shovels out to the ice and, so you can ice.
Yeah, exactly. Young people. Got to hand it to them.
So, all right. Well, if nobody has anything else to add to our topic for today, then I guess it's time to wrap it up. So, last call for last comments. All right. So then I guess we're going to conclude the Christian Indie Writers podcast for this week. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ.
Bye for now.
Bye.